Hi guys, this is Elise. That sounds weird, doesn't it?
It does sound weird. I'm Becky. I know who I am. I'm not sure about her. Yeah. Something happens to writers when they start writing.
So we just went to Killer Nashville. That's where we get these enormous stacks of books from. It is a writing conference, and my pen name is Elise Burke Brown. Now, it's part of my real name. My full name is Kayla Elise Burke Brown. But my previous agent said Kayla Brown is a really popular name on Amazon. You need to go with something else. Mm-hmm. And Elise Burke Brown sounded writery, according to my publisher.
Very literary.
But I did discover at Killer Nashville this year, because last year I went and I was just Kayla. This year I went and I'm got a name tag on that says Elise Burke Brown author, and I'm shaking hands with people and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Kayla." And they stop and they look at my name tag and I look at my name tag and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. I'm
really Elise this
I'm
year.
Elise, but I don't have multiple personalities. I just have 4 names." Like, sorry. Not that interesting. So, yes, I say all that to say that was the most stressful thing about Killer Nashville is remembering my name. And if you do want to follow me on social media, Elise Burke Brown, my website's Elise Burke Brown, because that is the name on the cover of my book.
Yes.
And hopefully the name on the cover of many books to come.
Yes.
So, yes, and I will start doing better at author workshops, because apparently, like what Marie Still, who was there with a phenomenal author, also a publishing sibling, she's with Rising Action as well. I gave a presentation on beginning writing, like writing for beginners, basics of writing. And she said, "You only referred to yourself as Kayla twice. Good job." And I'm like,
it was very funny. It really was.
It would help if I didn't talk about myself in third person. But here we go. We had such a great time at Killer Nashville. I'm going to try to share some pictures here, but the majority of our pictures are going to be on our social media. Again, Elise Burke Brown, author, on Instagram.
Go follow her on Instagram.
Go follow
so you
me
can see all of this.
And feel free to call me by my name. Whichever one you choose.
Yeah.
So we met so many amazing authors.
We did. Which one?
First, we'll start with Rebecca Zanetti.
We loved Rebecca. She great name, by the way.
Yes.
Rebecca too. So I have multiple names as well. But she was so funny. Mm-hmm. Clay Stafford, who's in charge of Killer Nashville, he interviewed her, and it was hilarious. And she is one of the most prolific authors, I think. She writes 6 books a year. Yeah, even sometime 8 maybe, or she's trying for 8. I don't know. It was crazy how many she wrote. But, I know. I might finish the year off with 3 that I've. One that I completed this year, one that I fully wrote this year, and maybe there'll be a 3rd one. We'll see. But goodness, 6 books a year. And so I got one of her books, and you got the other. It's a sequel. It's a series. So we haven't had a chance to read her yet because I'm into Baron Bircher right now, as I said earlier. And guess who was there with a new book? Baron Bircher and Knife River. It's the 4th in the Ty Dawson mystery, and I met him and he autographed my book for me, and I'm excited about that. Yes, all of them are signed. And if you are someone who loves to read and you have your own library, anytime you meet an author and you get them to sign it, it's just like a big deal for us. So, and Rebecca was super sweet because we are with the same literary agency. Right. In fact, when I signed when I met Liza Dawson and Rachel Beck is my agent. Liza Dawson is in charge of the agency. I've mentioned I have a hard time writing standalone novels, and Liza laughed and said, "You need to meet Rebecca Zanetti." And I was like, Okay.
Sure. So I saw her there, and I said, I was told to meet you. And she said, who told you that? And I said, Liza Dawson. She said, well, yeah, that makes sense. So
that was great.
She's very kind. She's hopefully going to give me a blurb on my Chase Harlem novel. So it was great getting to connect with her. And speaking of authors that
this
are part of Liza Dawson, Ray Frey. This is her newest book that is a thriller, and I recognized it because I saw it on the Liza Dawson website before I signed with them. And for my writers who are watching, you should really call and talk to the writers being agented by people before you sign. That's like a rule. I didn't follow it this time, but I did look up who I would want to call, and one was Ray Frey. Well, it worked out because she was at Killer Nashville. I got to talk to her. I held up her signature line for so long, just us talking about our fantastic agent, Rachel Beck. So that was also amazing.
And I actually sat in on a panel that Ray was part of, and it was an outstanding panel. So, just such good advice listening to them. So, and then the keynote speaker was Karen
Dion.
And if you recognize this, the Marsh King's Daughter, it has been made into a movie. And I started reading, so I found that I said, well, I'm going to get in here. So I started it, and just one chapter in, and it is awesome. So very
she had a very unique story, and unique as in you don't often hear about authors their debut getting a 6-figure deal. And hers got one. And then a 7-figure movie deal after that.
So like, she is a hot commodity right now. And to get to meet her and talk to her, and she's just a lovely person, and just so sweet, and just full of information that willing to share. If you are an aspiring writer, you need to go to conferences like this, because you're going to connect with successful writers. And in your circle, you need people that are where you want to be, not where necessarily you are, but where you want to be, because they can feed into you and mentor you, and you need that circle, and it to just grow you as a writer in this industry. Man, I learned so much, and I'm not a writer yet, but I'm And
speaking of learning, let's move on to some of the craft books we got. The Story Is Not Enough. This is a second edition by Alan P. Woodruff. He was actually sat in on my speech that I gave on
the basics
of writing. And he gave such fantastic input that I absolutely had to get his book. And it's basically like, it is a massive textbook, and I've been through it some, and if you haven't written a book, or maybe you wrote a book and it didn't work out, but you still want to get into writing, this is a great resource for you. It goes over ways to outline, ways to develop your characters. It is phenomenal. If I was teaching a creative writing class at college, I teach basic composition, not creative writing, but if I was, this would be what I'd use.
So it's kind of all in one place.
It is better than, from what I've read, it has more resources than like Save the Cat or any of the other popular craft books we've discussed here on this channel. So I would definitely look into that. Again, it's Alan P. Woodruff. The Story Is Not Enough, and you can get it on Amazon. We also met
Henri Corder. This lady is the real deal. And I was going to all the marketing workshops, because I'm technically, unofficially her private publicist. You know,
Yes.
This is what I want to do, is to get her book out there and get it sold. And Henri has sold almost 5 million books, and it's in like 40 different languages and all over the world. And she gave us these books. I have these books that she just gave us, and it's the Prosperity for Writers, which is great because it tells you how to take what you've written and market it in more than one way. So it basically is telling you, how do you make a living being an author? And there's no such thing as writer's block. And that was interesting because she said, you say you have writer's block, go write an email. You do not, you're writing. And from that, it grows. And so I am a writer notebook. There's no such thing as writer's block. So it's a workbook that goes along with this. And she just gave those resources away. And she's there to help up and coming aspiring writers. And I thought I almost tackled the woman. She had one copy of this book with her. You must market your book, because in the world we live in today in publishing, one of the things that we have learned is, you have a publisher and they're going to do some things for you. But if you really want to be that best-selling author out there, you've got to market yourself in your book. And so that's the skills I was trying to gain information on so that I could help promote you in that way in your book. Well, she had one copy of this and she put it up and said, "Who wants this?" And I'm getting out of my chair to go for it. And it's only because she was younger than me and and closer. This other little girl, she got there first. I almost tackled her and took it away from her, but I said, "Nah, I won't do that." So anyway, I came home and ordered the book, and I've just now started it. So I'm really interested in. It gives already's given some good information. So if you've published a book. She's an indie author. She has published her own stuff, and I'm sorry, when you can sell 5 million books and
you don't need traditional publishing.
Some good stuff out there. Oh my goodness.
And I will say that's one thing I appreciate about Killer Nashville is that the indie authors are just as celebrated as the traditionally published authors.
Yes.
I am not. I was always hesitant to do independent publishing just because I'm not a social media guru or anything like that. Had I risked it and known the things they knew, maybe my life would be different. But that's why you go to these conferences and you see what's different and what's there.
That's right.
Speaking of indie authors, and I didn't realize she was an indie author. Tracy Hunter Abramson, I have almost all of her other books on Kindle. But I was on a panel with her and Marie Still, and T.O. Payne was another one of the panelists with us, and it was about setbacks and rewards of writing, and it was perfect because here I am, a baby author, trying, my next book comes out next summer. My first book comes out next summer. Marie Still has written, I think this is her 4th book that's coming out, My Darlings, which you should definitely read. It's about a mom who's a serial killer. But Tracy has written maybe 80 books. It's a very large number of books. And so all the questions we got, you're seeing it from three very people in very different places in their career. But what was funny is for some reason my brain didn't click on the name until we're sitting there and Tracy starts talking about her books and her characters and her writing while we're in the panel, and all of a sudden I go from sitting really professionally to suddenly I'm sitting on my hands and fidgeting because I realize I'm sitting beside actually one of my favorite authors. So when the panel ended, the questions were over, I was just okay, I've been professional for too long. I need to tell you, you're my favorite and I love you. And she's oh great, here's the arc for my new book. I'm so excited. I'm over halfway through it, but Hometown Vendetta. And I love it. I love her characters. Tracy worked for the CIA for years. So she's former CIA. And she writes these espionage novels. And what I don't think I even realized she was former CIA. But, like, what I've always loved about her books is they seem so much more realistic than every other book like that, and it makes sense now because that's the job.
And something she made. I sat in on a couple of her panels, and she was excellent. And one of the things that she talked about, I think with yours was, we talked about deadlines and different things like that, and she said how she had to get certain things approved through the Pentagon in order for her to put them in a book. Yeah. I mean, that's real stuff,
like, people. She has someone at the CIA that she has to send her books to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we were walking out and she was going to take me and give me this arc that she said, oh yeah, I should probably get an agent. I'm like, wait, you're unagented? Like, you're actually kind of indie? Which she has a publisher, but she's written so many books, so many bestsellers. She's absolutely phenomenal. And I got to be on a panel with her, guys, and I didn't cry.
She did not.
I did so good. You'd be so proud. So another panelist I get to be on panel was John Madinger. And he's a former police officer, and that's another thing I loved about Killer Nashville.
I was so impressed.
A lot of their panelists are former cops, former FBI, former CIA, and they're giving these presentations, lawyers and everything else. So if you're writing in this genre, like, they're the people you need to talk to, really even more than other authors.
Oh,
so
totally.
We had a great time. Phenomenal people. Oh, Rodney Walther gave me a copy of his. It's not out yet, so I'm like covering the title. But he beat me this year for the Claymore Award in general fiction, which he should have. He's amazing. And
I read the first couple of chapters of this book. I snuck it while you were gone somewhere, and I was sitting in the room, and I started reading it, and it was great.
His writing is so good, and it's another example of, like, why you should go to these conferences, because Rodney's not published yet, but he's so good. He's going to be scooped up at some point, and I'm going to be able to say, I knew that man. He beat me in a contest.
That's right. I think in the guide here, they don't have everybody in here. There's several of the authors that we, the lawyer, and you don't have his book with you, but I know you got it. He did the case.
Oh my gosh, Zenith Man. Yes, he's emailed me. One of our next interviews will be with a lawyer who wrote the book Zenith Man. And he, McCracken is his first name, such a cool name. But he wrote the book Zenith Man, and it is about a man who was accused of, like, trapping his wife in a basement and killing her, basically. And everyone just believed it. Well, it turned out they believed it because he's creepy. He had a creepy way of looking at you. And it turned out it's because he had autism. And it was at a time in a small southern town where nobody really knew what that was. So, amazing book. We are going to have him on the blog soon. We hope.
That's good, because I sat in on some of his panels as well, and he was very informative, and I can see, from his lawyer aspect, how that if you're an aspiring writer and you're writing in that field where you need that legalese, he would definitely be a great resource person.
Oh yeah.
So it was really good, and
my new best friend.
Yes, my British son. I have claimed him.
Y'all have probably heard of him.
Yes, he has a ton of books. Tom Barber, and I ordered this because I asked him. We were having during the luncheon. I asked him. I said, which of your books that you've written, and there are a lot of them, is your favorite? And he said, he let me think. And this is the 5th book in the Sam Archer thriller series. And so he said, I think you might like this one. So I ordered One Way by Tom Barber, and I've started it. I have all these books I've started, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on Ty Dawson, and when I get through it, and one reason I went ahead and read the second Ty Dawson book was because I ordered this, and it was supposed to be in the day I finished the first one, and then for whatever reason it didn't come. It was delayed.
Amazon, how dare you?
Yes, for 2 days. I do not know what their problem was. So I said, well, I can't sit here. Yeah, I guess that's no excuse. When Becky wants a book, Becky wants a book. And anyway, so I said, well, I'm gonna go ahead and start the second Ty Dawson because I've got to have something to read. And so I did. But again, I go back, and he's a young guy and so charming, and I had no idea he was this. When I started talking with him, I didn't know he was this prolific writer, and just such a nice guy, so sweet,
and also very low-key under the radar, because he is an Amazon bestseller, has been for years. He has the Sam Archer series. It's done wonderful. Extremely well.
Yes.
And we were sitting there, and when I was finally piecing together who he was as we were talking, I was just like, why aren't you on any panels? Why aren't you giving presentations? He's like, no, I don't want to do that.
No, he just wants to sit and write and kind of be part of it.
So incredibly humble, but just a really cool guy.
It was just so great.
And it's phenomenal meeting all these amazing people, getting to hang out with one of my publishing siblings, and share in her joy with an announcement she's going to be making soon.
Sometime this week, I think.
Yeah, but we can't talk about it yet.
No, we can't talk about it yet. But it's just an amazing experience. I know you went last year. This is my first time to go. It really won't be my last. And this is the crazy thing. Like I said, I'm not a writer yet. I know that I have a book in me that it's more a memoir, and you insisted I go to the memoir workshop there, and it again was so good. And I met a lady, and she talked about the Wish Man. The Wish Man, if you've heard of Make-A-Wish Foundation, for that, they give wishes, grant wishes for children that have childhood cancer and other, life-threatening diseases. This is a book about him, and it brought me to tears because just listening to her talk about it, my daughter, she passed away when she was 6. She had leukemia, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation, her wish was to go meet Mickey Mouse, because she always says, I'm going to marry Mickey Mouse. And so they sent us to Disney World as a family. And so I talked with her, and and I told her, I said, I know the Lord has always wanted me to write my story about the whole situation and what happened, and my journey of faith, and my journey through all of this, and how I survived, and losing my daughter. And she handed me a card, and she said, please let me help you do that. And I just kind of looked at her, and I was like, she said, please, that is what I do. She said, my thing is, I want to help people tell their stories. And she said, I want to help you tell your story. Please contact me. I said, well, thank you very much. I said, I will. She said, you promise you will contact me? And I said, yes, I will. And the funny thing is, I was telling you today, her publishing company is called Title Town, and we live in Tuscaloosa,
which is Title Town,
which is referred to as Title Town because several years ago we had so many of our sports team at the University of Alabama that won national titles in the same year. People started referring to us as Title Town, and I said, I just find that very interesting that that's the title of her company. And it just seemed like there was something there, you know. So anyway, needless to say, we had a fabulous
time
and learned so much. And if you're a writer, I know going to things like that can be expensive, but you should start saving now to go, because it's the connections you make, the people you meet. And I just tell you, everyone there was so kind and so encouraging. And you're going to meet some fabulous people that not just can, but want to help you in your career as a writer.
And we'll be at BoucherCon next year when they're in New Orleans. So first weekend in September. Start saving up now. Come visit us in BoucherCon.
That's right. So until then, bye guys.
Bye.